We're in season 3 here, If It Be Your Will. Today I have Native Son. I have Danny Gomez from Native Son coming in down in Brooklyn. Um,
How's it going,
and we
Chris?
were just talking and we were like, hey, whoa, let's stop talking. Let me hit record because we were just going on and on. So this is going to be a great conversation.
We're already, I
But
think we're
Danny,
past second place already. Yeah.
I really would love to know your kind of origin story of music. Like, what are your earliest memories of being attached to music or kind of feeling like this was something that wow, like I this is going to be a part of who I am.
Yeah, I think that, hello everyone, by the way. I'm Danny Gomez and I sing and play guitar in Native Son. And I'm the participant, here today with Chris.
That's right. That's right.
But no, I think it all goes back to what we were talking about before, I moved, I
Mm,
emigrated to the United States, from Colombia, like post Escobar climate when I was around like 7 years old, 8 years old. And
mm,
you know, it kind of was a big shift in life, you know what I mean? It was almost like we had to start over
sure.
again, you
Right.
know? And my dad for a bit was like cleaning offices, like office buildings and office stuff like that. And
Mm,
when I was around like 12, he was like, if you come, I'll give you $10. And for me that would be like great. I mean, that's a fortune. That's sure I'll come, and I'd wake up at 4 a.m. and I'd go and I'd do the hour of vacuuming at the same, at the same time, it was like, we'd get to hang out and then, eat and ride and listen to music. And that's when I kind of started getting into things. And it quickly became like, okay, you come and do this and you get a CD,
mm,
because that's what, CD was back then was
right.
$10,
Right.
and I remember I kind of just delved into what I had seen, was seen around pop culture. And I grabbed a Beatles record and Nevermind were the
Mm,
first two things that I bought. And, funny enough, now I feel like I look back at it and I'm like, it makes so much sense that a 12, 13-year-old, like those are the two records that, and they're so interlinked, even
yes.
though one
Yes.
sound, one's got the noisy guitars and, put the melodies and and then you grow up and you learn, Kurt Cobain was obsessed with John Lennon and all this stuff. And it gives me kind of a laugh that it's like, that's what it was. Cause, could have been two things that, kind of prove the different sides of adolescence, you
For
know?
sure. For sure.
But no, going back to what you're saying about the lyrical thing, then it kind of really delved into, I would go back every week and fully sink in the discography of these artists because I would buy a CD and go
Right.
back in the next Sunday and buy a different one in the discography and like just like knock it off the list. And the whole week I
Wow.
was like just listening to, on my Walkman, the CD the whole time and just sinking it in, ride my bike to school. I vacuum again, right before getting the next one, listening to it, like, all right, Sergeant Pepper's done, Rubber
That's
Soul,
cool.
and then I started doing that with like, Dylan, you know,
Yeah.
and that's Blonde on Blonde. And then I, started getting into like the Velvet Underground and things like that. And
Nice.
just kind of digesting it all. Also, the
Yeah.
public library, that's a great resource. I know people still use, but
That's true.
we used to go with my older brother, and then it'd be like the replacements, Let It Be, television, Marquee Moon, things like that. We would just go for it because
Yeah.
it was free, and then you'd go and you rip it into iTunes, and you know.
That's it. Where did you like where did you start hearing about all these artists? Was it just like through listening to the radio or like where did you discover some of these more like, the replacements weren't necessarily a big radio band. Like where would
Yeah.
you discover these lesser not lesser bands, but less known bands, I'd say.
I think, combination of the cliche, that one I remember the Let It Be cover was the one that I grabbed was there was just something striking about the
Hmm,
cover art, just
right?
the four of them who looked like, pals from, day one, whether they wanted to or not be pals, but there's nobody else in town, you know,
Yeah,
that's into
no,
stuff
for
like
sure.
you. So you have to be, I can imagine that time period in Minneapolis. Um,
Well,
but
I
yeah,
love
there's
that
something about
cover
that.
art. Like
Yeah,
that's cool. Cover art would be
I
an
also just found
attraction
it
for you.
so. yeah, so
Yeah,
cheeky that they called it "Let It Be," and then later on you learn that it was, just nothing is sacred. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
not even, So it's like, it was serious and funny at the same time that I think to a 13-year-old, but also
yeah,
was a little bit deeper than just, I couldn't. There's a certain side of punk music that I didn't like that I just thought was too juvenile. It wasn't,
mm,
too juvenile all the time. There was like serious themes, like you could combine something like androgynous with, then Tommy gets his tonsils out,
right,
you
right.
know, quite literally. So, yeah,
Yeah, that's cool.
and then, then I was living in Miami at the time. That's where we immigrated to after Columbia.
Mm,
And it really wasn't on the radio, this kind of stuff. And none of my friends really either were into, things like that. So it was kind
yeah,
of felt like an outcast, but at the same time, I didn't like dwell in that way, you know.
okay, yeah,
But everyone was just into bad, like screamo or like heavy metal music,
yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, we're smoking pot for the first time, and I'm like, you guys should check out the song Heroin by the Velvet Underground. And they're like, what is this? Like, can we not?
Nice.
Yeah. Um, but
And
yeah.
when did songwriting start happening for you? Like, do you remember when it was when you were like, shit, I'm going to give this songwriting thing a try, and where you started to actually consciously build songs? Like, do you remember those beginning songs that you wrote?
Yeah, I think the reason after I, kind of that period that we were talking about, like getting into, music as, just an escape, and also just giving meaning to
Mm-hmm.
things, you know what I mean? Um I realized the whole reason why, I taught myself how to play guitar when I was around like 15-ish, 16, around then. I didn't have lessons, because I don't know. There really wasn't around anything, and it was either expensive and couldn't afford them. I'd be like, I can't do that. Or I remember my mom had a friend, this lady, this older woman who like played like nylon guitar. And they like brought me into a class, and I'm there with like, a couple of like other, kids, and she just started showing this, and everybody like I guess had to bring a song that first class to see like, something they want to learn. And I think I thought like Dark Side of the Moon I brought in. She was just like it almost gave her a nervous breakdown that she's like, I'm not gonna be able to teach you how to do that. She's like, I'm doing like a waltz on like an E and an A chord. I'm like, oh, how do you play time on guitar?
Right.
Uh, so that
Overwhelmed,
was
eh?
the only lesson
First
half.
day overwhelmed. No way, Danny, not doing it.
Yeah, she was the
Amazing.
one having like a,
That's
breakdown.
cool.
You um, I think maybe there was like a Who song, or
Right.
something like that, and she was just like, I don't think this is the right place to do it. So I was like, fine, I'm just gonna go home, and I thankfully came from a generation where the internet and tabs, and I just kind of taught
Yeah.
myself. I remember I bought a chord book, like a Mel-based chord book, like one of those like
Right.
ones that have been around for like 80 years, for
Yeah.
like 10
Yeah. Yeah.
dollars. I was like, all right, I'll just learn these. And honestly, I feel like my dad kind of helped in this because I picked the guitar because I realized I just wanted to write songs. So that's
Mm,
why I didn't care. I was like, you know, I was like more wanting to learn like to play a song from like start to finish. Which as you go on in life, you'd be surprised. A lot of people that say they play music, but it's like, can you play a full song and like even a part that repeats and all that stuff, and like play it like full through like a song, not just as like parts,
right.
parts, parts, parts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I just, I've always said it's like, I was also very into literature and, poetry around the time, starting that kind of road.
Yeah.
And it was just, I think the way that I know how to express the whatever
Yeah.
it is,
Yeah.
that, and, how I deal with the world, and,
Yeah. Did you find
that.
that your songs were like singer-songwritery, like when you were just starting to write them with your guitar? Or did you already have an intent that you wanted to do garage rock or something a little bit more aggressive? Like, was your inclination leading you towards that you were eventually going to have a garage rock band or a punk rock band, or were your first thinkings and your first songs like more of like the Dylan, the Replacements, the Leonard E. Cohen? Like, what was your
Uh,
mindset at those times?
to be honest, I don't think there was, even at first and even sometimes like, sure now with more experience you can, guide it and um, you know,
Right.
how to get, from point A to point B,
Hmm.
But no, I think it was just trying to write something naturally or like, just going for it and seeing what comes out, obviously like I
Hmm.
view a lot of, us, especially in this modern environment, as just an amalgamation of a lot of things and,
Hmm.
seeing what that spurs out naturally, right? Because, it's like, how can you combine, we're going back to the, the Beatles one and Nevermind. It's like, maybe a kid that came up with that, what if they wrote a song that was like both of those things combined,
Right. Right.
without intent in that way. Um,
Right.
so just yeah, just try. I don't think there was anything. I think when I moved to New York when I was like 17, I came here because of a lot of music I was listening to.
Hmm.
Uh, the Dylans and the Reeds and the Johnny Thunders and things like that.
Right.
Ramones, Blondie were here, and my older brother had moved here, so he was living in the East Village in like the early 2010s, and it kind of just like gave me an excuse as like a 16-year-old to start coming here and kind of being tossed out there in the wild.
Right.
Um, and
Were
yeah,
you playing
I think
music
that
when you first
I
came up?
think I view it just as
Yeah.
life experience, like naturally shifts that
Right.
things like that.
Yeah.
And then yeah, when I was 18 and 17, moved to the city, and I didn't, I was living off like 40 bucks a week, like in a town like New York, and somehow still imagine I always have cigarettes. I don't know how when they were like 10 bucks, but still
Right.
somehow, with your street smarts, you like figured it out and you always have a pack or,
Yeah. Yeah.
someone from Virginia and coming back, some free packs or, um, but that's one of the great things too about New York is like you can, not we touched upon this, but there's a romanticism to being able to live, that frugally and like figuring out to that time that I didn't have a band in that time period.
Okay.
I always say that it like I never felt like it's like you move to New York and you like find the people right away or I think for me
Right.
and I think the right way sometimes is maybe just live and have experience and I
Things
still
come to
get
you.
a lot of those formative years in my writing and the
Yeah.
experiences come out in songs in different ways, and stuff like that. Working right now on our first record is like a culmination of a lot of those experiences and more the lyrical aspect and the story of just, survival, on the streets of New
Hmm.
York, you know, you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And
nothing
we were
in.
talking a little bit before about too that the themes of your songs that you write, like, I mean, the music is really there and raw and edgy. But if you, like I told you, I was following through the lyric sheet on the latest song, Too Late, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of heavy stuff in there. There's a lot of like strong themes that you explore. Do most of your songs, like, do you have songs where they're more political than others, or more, trying to figure out who I am as a person more than others? Like, what themes do your songs tend to um, revolve around?
Yeah, I think one thing I like to say is that you know, we never want to be like always repeating ourselves. So, as you pointed out those couple of things, it's like, at the same time we never set a barrier on anything to write about. And I'm glad that you hear that because that is a lot of the point with us in the band is, like delivering, as you were saying, like this rock and roll song and stuff like that. But then like underneath it, there's a deeper layer to it that,
Right.
on first listen might not give away. It takes repeated listens to finally start hearing it. And I think
Mm.
once you do, comes the sweet spot of it all. But yeah, I think we try to fit with, melody and aggression, some of those bigger themes. And, we've all had a lot of life experience and things like that that, we can draw upon. Also, it's like, we always say it's not gonna be songs about dragons or bullshit like that. Like it's,
Right.
songs about real people, real circumstance. That's, and yeah, the political aspect just naturally has to flood in. I mean, we're a band of, half brown people, and what we like to say is, it's a band of people from everywhere. We have people from the US, we have people from Argentina, Colombia. It's like, that is what America should be. And, this 2024 and the world, not only America should be in a, you know,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
cliche melting pot, but it is true. And, we try to
absolutely,
represent that.
absolutely. Yeah,
Because
I
that,
there was a great quote out of So Young magazine where they said you're re-imagining the sound of white America, or
yeah.
white America, whatever that meant. But I
I
think you
mean,
nailed it right there. This
I'm a
melting pot.
Colombian dude writing about, talking about the replacements or things like that. Like there isn't someone else, that, I can idolize or like look up to that has done something like that. And, and I think it's important to kids and, to immigrants to know that like they can, talk about it's not just, for white people or things like that. It's like
Absolutely.
good music, good art is good art. Doesn't matter.
Bingo. Well said, man. Well said. So I also have this other quote, and I want to ask you about it. That you said that you play every show like it's your last. And I've heard I went online, I looked at a few live performances, and I'm like, he really means it. He really means it. Like, what is a live performance of Native Son? Like, if you had to like describe it to somebody that had never heard the songs, never seen you guys, like, how would you describe that live performance you guys put on?
I think, it's an even more intense representation than what you hear on record at points. I think
Mm,
there's an unpredictability to it. A lot of the bands we talked about, it's like that's why we love them. Stooges, things like that. Like every show is not going to be the same. Something happens, something. They're. I think that's kind of how our band kind of I feel developed reputation. People started, coming to our shows and bringing, a few more friends. The next one here in New York.
yeah.
Something would happen, or like they would have the time of their lives. The crowd would end up on stage, this or that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, someone, like had a great time and ended up in the hospital by accident. Chipped their tooth or something like that. Like, but they had the best time. They felt alive and I think there's that feeling of just urgency and being present in the moment. I think people always say like because we can be a very loud band live and stuff like that, and
Sure.
sometimes to that I just say that it's I go to shows and a lot of the time half the crowd is talking during the set, and we force you to pay attention to us while the whole time we're up there. If not, where are we going to be up there? You're
Mm.
not going to talk over us. So
I read this thing too where it said you forget where the stage is from the crowd, from the band. Like it's just this immersive feeling that happens where you just feel a part of this sound that just envelops
no, and
everyone.
I think it builds like a community in a sense, and people, at the same time, it's like all this stuff is going on, but it's also we're encouraging people to have fun and do it in the right way. Everyone's respectful to each other,
Sure.
things like that.
Yeah.
I'm okay to, sacrifice. I'm like, anything can happen to me. I've had like almost my teeth chipped out, several times, like, you know,
Will you
bruises.
dive in the audience too?
That's
Like,
fine. Like that's fine. Like I'm the idiot who's putting himself in that circumstance, so I can bear the repercussions, but everyone else, just be respectful. But yeah, I mean, as people end up on stage and we're okay with that. Like there's no separation, between us and
pretty
the
cool.
audience in that sense.
Pretty cool. So, Danny, just to kind of like we'll bring this to a close. This has been really fun. I mean, you have such great stories. I know that just talking to you, I know what this show is. Your shows are just going to be amazing.
Where are you? You're in Canada, right?
I'm in Montreal.
Oh, you're in Montreal, sick.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
we were there only for the first time last summer. We'll definitely be back. So keep us posted. Oh, well, I
Awesome.
was gonna say, um, going back to what we were talking before you started recording about the label
Yeah,
thing. Because that has, that's a very important thing with the band. And, your podcast definitely is named after Leonard Cohen's song, right?
that's right.
Okay. Well, he's a very big one for us. You know what I mean? It's like that's what we're trying to say is like, not trying to say that something on that level of, not trying to say that, but more like how can we bring that kind of thinking into just garage rock or punk or, things like
Love
that,
it.
you know.
Yeah. No, it's very, very well done.
Those were the things when we were like, 15 or 16, it was weird because I would, was listening to songs, of love and hate and stuff like that, and they're like,
Yeah.
you're listening to Avalanche and,
Yeah.
I was like, this is scarier than your
Amazing.
metal, to my
It
friends.
is. It is. But
This
I
is more
love the
haunted.
way
You
that you
grow up and you'll
described
go,
it.
this is dark, you know.
That's right. But how you described it, though, of almost you have to peel back the layers of your music because at first it's the sound, right? It's there. But as you get lower into and you start listening to the lyrics, I mean, it's really amazing writing that you guys have been doing, Danny. So congrats. The new single just came out too late at the end of March, and it's just a banger. I love it. So congrats on that. And what else is what is in store for Native Son for 2024? Like what's happening with the band over the next, year
So,
that you can tell us about. That you can tell us
no, we're, as I was saying, just finishing off, our debut record in the next few
about.
weeks, and, more new music is coming. Um,
Cool.
you know, so definitely be on the lookout as, definitely some teasers will start coming out soon.
Awesome. And you're hitting
Um,
the road or you're doing shows
yeah,
these days too?
we're playing some shows at the end of May in some festivals in the Northeast. We're playing with our friends here in Geese, um, upstate in Kingston, and then a field day festival in Northampton, Massachusetts.
Nice.
Um, and yeah, and a couple shows in and out. Really right now, just focusing the record, and then, come the fall, we're gonna be touring a bunch. Stuff is gonna be announced, and you know,
Cool. So
Canada.
the machine's just ramping up really with
Yeah,
this new record, mixing, getting it ready, and then
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
reveal.
Just got back from like,
Awesome.
we did all of March. We were on tour with this great band from Vermont called Dust Love.
Yes.
So we were on tour with them,
Right.
and we were going to South by. We went to South by. We pulled out of all of our official showcases, with everything that was going on. But we
Yeah.
still ended up playing, a very good number of shows of unofficial stuff, and they hopped back on the road, and been nonstop to like the past couple of weeks. So
Amazing.
we were in California too, like a few weeks before that. Another run in the Northeast that we did. So it's right now just
You're a, you're a busy band, a working band, a working band that's
yeah,
doing a ton of stuff out there. That's
yeah.
great.
You believe you got to put in the work. So you know,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you keep it up. It's sounding great. I'm a fan now. I will be following you closely, and maybe when the new record drops, we you could hop back on and we can have a chat about the whole record itself and how things are going.
yeah, 100%. We'll have some more of the other guys. Some of them are working today, so you know how it goes.
Okay,
But yeah, we'll definitely do something. I love that.
amazing,
We're
cool.
definitely
Well,
out.
all the best, man, and we'll be talking soon.
Thank you, Chris.